Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to the SEMO Sports Zone presented by Acorp Sports. David, first full week of January.
It's here. We've got a bunch of regular season games, a lot of stuff, a lot of teams starting to play some conference games and things, and just kind of getting that all in line. And now you're just kind of you're trying to recover from Christmas a little bit.
Yeah. You want to talk about just kind of implication season for conference games. I feel like this week was full of them.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of conference games, a lot of things that will impact seeding for some conference tournaments and such. And so it was an interesting week. It was a week without a ton of upsets, but there were definitely some. And it's just we're in the full. We're in the middle of it now. I guess right in the middle.
I would say so. Do you want to go ahead and get into scores?
Absolutely.
First game I've got on the list is Sikeston 82, Crothersville 43. Nice bounce back win for Sikeston.
Yeah, Sikeston, coming back home and or back to the area. They were down at Crothersville, but they back playing some local teams and they bounced back well. They completely dominated Crothersville. They had they just kind of wore them down. I'm like, honestly, Crothersville tried to run with them, and that's a big mistake for most teams. Mm-hmm. And Sikeston just kind of feeds off that, and a lot of turnovers, and they played well. And I think that was something they needed, was get back on that win column.
Do you think it's something as far as like for how Sikeston plays? I mean, we know how well they play at the field house. Do you think their chemistry just kind of keeps up no matter where they go at this point?
For the most part. I mean, obviously, the longer road trips are a little more difficult, but Crothersville, they're a young team, and that's a team that Sikeston can take advantage of with their pressure defense and force some turnovers and such. So it was a good kind of a get right game for them, especially with them going to play their rival in Charleston on Friday night. I'm sure we'll talk about that, but it was just a good game for them to get back in the swing of things, and they look good.
All right, let's move on. We've got New Madrid County Central 62, Portageville 52.
Yeah, this was, New Madrid needed this win in the worst way. Mm-hmm. They are struggling to find wins and looking for things going well. Jaden Williams, he had a big game, 24 points. They only turned the ball over 10 times. Portageville, hung with them for a long time, but just didn't make enough plays at the end. But just a win that New Madrid needed, because they've been kind of struggling. They didn't play a lot over Christmas, so it was just probably a big win for them.
Absolutely. And then South Pemiscot 52, Westside, Jonesboro, Arkansas 50.
Yeah, this was a fun game. This was a tough week for South Pem. They played 3 tough games, and this was the first one going down to Jonesboro. That Westside team, they play a very slow, deliberate style, and it was tough. Ty Campbell, he had a steal, but he's a good player, just a really good player. Steal with 7 seconds left. He fed Farmer, and Farmer was fouled. He had his free throws. It was a great game. All went down to the wire. A lot of turnovers, but this Westside team's not a bad team, and it was a good win for South Bend.
All right. Moving on to Tuesday, get ready for us to talk about Crothersville a lot. I've got them highlighted several times. Crothersville 82, Malden 77.
Yeah, Crothersville played a lot of good games this week. A lot of teams played like 2 and 3 games. Mm-hmm. They were some tough games, and Crothersville was one of them, and they were able to get this win. This was a huge win. This was a fun game. Malden had a huge lead in the first half. They led by as much as 17. And Crothersville just kept coming back, and Malden did not do a good job of holding the lead. And I think Crothersville got their first lead at 73-72 with 3 minutes left. I mean, Quan McVeigh, 25 points, Sammy Bryant, 15. They just made every play down the stretch they needed to make. And you could see, from Monday night to Tuesday night, just how much better they got and more confidence they got in themselves. And it was a fun game. Malden just too many turnovers, a lot of bad shots there late in that game. But Crothersville did what they needed to do to win.
I guess just to broach the question, we talk about just like how all these Christmas tournaments, especially how front-loaded December is for everybody. Do you think once you get into regular season, you're in that kind of more not so much week to week, things like that, but you get this more consistent schedule going on. Do you think you kind of wake up a little bit more?
I think so. And plus, Crowsville knows Malden very well, their conference opponents. So I think that helps too. You're playing some teams that you're a little bit more familiar with. A lot of times in these Christmas tournaments, you're playing teams you only see once a year, maybe. Right. It may be if you see them once every 2 or 3 years. So it's Crowsville is very familiar with Malden. Malden's very familiar with Crothersville. Crowsville plays pretty well at home unless it's Sykeston. So it was a fun game, up and down, a lot of scoring. Not a ton of defense, but there were some big defensive plays down the stretch, and Crowsville it was a good win for them.
Gotcha. East Prairie 61, New Madrid County Central 52.
Yeah, East Prairie just came out and guarded New Madrid, and New Madrid, coming off of that win against Portersville, you thought, well, hey, you get this win against East Prairie, kind of start building things in the right direction, and it just didn't happen. They just New Madrid just had a tough week. I mean, they had to win early against Portersville, and they just couldn't follow it up the next night. Jaden Williams held to 2 points. He had 24 on Monday night. Held to just 2 points. 1 of 9 shooting. East Prairie just did a great job defensively, and East Prairie, they're kind of flying under the radar there. They're a team that just is not going to go away in that Scott Miss conference, and that they could be a tough out in the district tournament at the end of the year.
Could definitely see them causing a few upsets that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, they're a team that they do a lot of the little things, and they're not a team that's real flashy. They're not like the team they were last year, but they've got some good players still, and they're a team that can cause some problems.
All right, Jackson 80, Farmington 56.
Yeah, Jackson. Farmington's not a bad team, and Jackson just ran away with it, especially there in that second half. They shot about 60% from the field, just knocked down everything, and it was just one of those games that everything just went right. Jackson just continues to build momentum off that Christmas tournament and looks really good. And I said it last week, I'll say it again. I'm not so sure they're not the best team in Southeast Missouri right now. I know they lost to Sykeston earlier, but when they play, I think it's the last week of the season. That's going to be that is going to be a fun game because I think Jackson matches up pretty well with Sykeston, and I think they're both really good basketball teams. So I'm interested to see that. But Jackson just kind of dominated the glass. I mean, they dominated everything in this game, and it was just a good performance from them.
All right. Hayti 69, Neelyville 36.
Yeah, Hayti started real slow in this game. They were missing Isaiah Love, and Neelyville just kind of played their pace in that first half. Second half was a different story. Hayti got out, was able to run a little bit. Once they got out in transition, they were able to score, and they picked it up. Outscored them 45-19 in the second half, and Neelyville just couldn't buy a bucket. I mean, they just could not find the basket at all, and Hayti took advantage of it. They'd grab the rebound and get out in transition, get an easy bucket, and it was It's the way that Hayti likes to play, and I think there was this was a repeat of the district championship game last year, so it was kind of one of those where, hey, this is we played they played close in that district championship game. This game was not, especially in the second half. Just a kind of a statement win for Hayti.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the narrative going into that is that last year Hayti was pretty banged up towards districts. Mm-hmm. So, to see them kind of play these opponents again, obviously, I mean, it's a year past. I don't remember what Neelyville might have lost, but still, it's a good statement win for Hayti, like you said.
Yeah, and Neelyville's not a bad team. I mean, like I said, the first half, they kind of controlled the pace. They did what they needed to do, made some shots, and but second half, Hayti just ran away with it. But there's a narrative there with Hayti getting banged up. They're banged up right now. They lost some players. They played on Saturday. They played Osceola, who's a Class 3 state champ, I believe, down there. And Osceola's really good, and they had to play without some starters because of injury, and they're already banged up now. You got to get healthy if you're Hayti, because you need to be at full strength when you hit districts.
And then next up, we've got Charleston 80, or Kelly 36. Definitely not the game that it was during the Southeast Missourian Christmas tournament.
Yeah, I thought that Kelly would come out and play them close again, the way they did in the Christmas tournament. But Charleston laid that to rest really quick. They jumped out on them, played with a lot of energy. When they play with a lot of energy. They're really tough, and they can guard you well, and they were shooting it well. Ajari Wells had 20 points. He had 6 threes. If he's hitting 6 threes, you got problems. And Trayshawn Shandon, who I think is a very underrated player, 13 points, 15 rebounds. He does a lot on the glass. He doesn't always, put up, 20 points, but he does a lot on the glass, and that's a big bonus for them. He's a tough player, and
sometimes you got to do that dirty work.
Yeah, he does a lot of that. And Charleston is a team that's, one of those years where they're kind of flying under the radar. They didn't have a great Christmas tournament, and so a lot of people, I think, are counting them out. And I don't know if that's probably the wisest thing to do.
Well, we said it last week. We thought they were kind of a roller coaster team, and
they are.
If you get that momentum, you start building up. I mean, this would be the right time to start doing that.
Yeah, and typically, in their seasons, this is whenever they start picking it up a little bit. Usually January is whenever they start peaking a little bit, and you start looking at them being like, hey, this is a team that needs to be reckoned with, and so. They definitely sent a statement out on Tuesday night.
And then a repeat of the Clarkton Christmas Tournament finals. South Pemiscot 72, Risco 63.
And this was a fun game too. I mean, South Pem, like I said, they played a tough week with played Risco. They just kind of pulled away in that fourth quarter. And did the same thing they did in the Christmas tournament over at Clarkton. They just kind of, their defense, they get out in transition. They're so quick, and Risco just has a tough time getting down the floor with them. And they just do a lot of things well. They just the quickness just caused Risco a lot of problems. Risco struggled from outside, especially late in that game. They really kind of struggled to make shots, and a lot of that is due to you've been running with them this entire game. Your legs get a little tired, and your shots come up a little short.
Yeah, I can see, that's just kind of the way, I feel like that's the way the Christmas tournament game went. I feel like South Pemiscot made a couple more mistakes. I feel like this is the score I was expecting from that initial game too.
Yeah. And South Pem, they ran their record. They were still undefeated at this point, and they looked, they look good. They don't have a lot of size, so they have to play, they play small, they play quick. And they try to get up and down the floor, and that's what they were able to do here. And Risco just struggles with that matchup to match. I think Risco needs us one more score. I think that could kind of help put them over the top there. But for the most part, Risco played well in this game. They just kind of ran out of gas at the end.
Up next, we've got Woodland 93, Richland 62.
Yeah, Woodland rolled. I didn't watch a ton of this game, but I did see some of it. And Kinder had 22 points, Jackson Shock had 22 points, and Calvin Layton had 20 points, and McCormick Kid had 22 points.
I don't think there's anything better if you're a coach than having a team that's consistent and can all get over 20.
Yeah, that's 4 guys who had 20 points. And I just thought that was interesting. You don't see that very often.
No.
And and Tilly had a good game for Richland, 21. Hayden Connor kind of stepped up and scored a little bit. I think he had 16 or 17. But it just Woodland just overwhelmed them. And Woodland's another team that's kind of seemed to take that Christmas tournament, and they're just kind of just continuing to build off that.
And then we've got Postco 73, Doniphan 56.
Yeah, Burchard had 30, Hancock 17. I mean, I know that they were kind of concerned with their defense a little bit there. It was a little bit lacking, but and they didn't shoot it real well. But they were still able to beat a Doniphan team that's been much improved from the beginning of the year. So, that's just kind of a go out and take care of your business type game for Puxico, and that's just what they kind of have to do at this point.
I'm just getting so curious of what the seeding for this Stoddard County tournament is going to be 1 and 2. I don't know where it's going to be.
Yeah, it could come down to a coin flip. It's one of those where they're both of them, I think, are deserving. Both Woodland and Puxico are deserving of that top seed. So we'll see how that comes out. Let's just hope that at some point in that tournament they play, and at some point in that tournament they're both healthy and good to go.
Absolutely.
I want two healthy Puxico. I want a healthy Puxico, healthy Woodland, and just going at it for a championship. I think that would be fun.
And then moving on to Thursday's game, we've got Risco 74, Bell City 65. I was at this one. This one was really fun.
That was a fun game, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Risco, they kind of had that lead early, and man, Bell City just kept chipping away. And Blake, I think his name Blake Gerald, the Gerald kid, man, he's just an unsung player. He had 30 33 points. He had a huge game. He just always seems to make the plays when they need it and score when they need it. You know about Juan Hernandez. You hear that name a lot. And Richardson was out this game, and that's a loss for Bell City. But Gerald's really stepped up, and he had that offensive rebound and the put back at the buzzer to send it to OT. But I think they ran out of gas just trying to get that game tied. We talk about Risco running out of gas against South Pim. I think Bell City kind of ran out of gas and weren't able to score in overtime. And Risco just they made the plays when they needed to.
Yeah, I mean, no real notes besides that. You pretty much said everything that happened. Yeah, Gerald becoming an integral piece too. He'll play in the paint, and he'll play in the paint very well. He's not afraid of contact, not afraid of anything.
Yeah, he's fun to watch in there, and with him and Richardson in there, they complement each other very well. Now that Richardson's out, Gerald's going to have to take up a lot more of the a lot more of that responsibility. But on the flip side, Risco, I mean, again, it's like every game. It's Owen Fortner. He had 28. Eli Rogers 24. He had his 1,000 points.
1,000th point.
Congratulations to him. That's pretty impressive. And it's like they're just there every game. It just seems like they never have a bad game. And they're just two very good Class 1 basketball teams, and both of them have a chance to win their district, and meet up again. But just two good Class 1 teams.
Absolutely. Notre Dame 73, New Metric County Central 53.
Yeah, New Madrid just overwhelmed Notre Dame, New Madrid. Notre Dame, Cole Adams 22, Dylan Rubel 11. They have so many guys that they play, and so many different guys that can score. It makes it really tough to defend them. Jaden Williams held to 13. He seems to be the only guy for New Madrid really that's there every game, for the most part, and they kind of looked for him to score, but most of these points that he got were after this game was already decided. So, it was just Notre Dame's playing much better than they were at the beginning of the year, and that's a team that's probably looking to that district, there with Dexter and Fredericktown as a definitely winnable district for them because they just continue to improve.
And then we've got Hayti 70, Cooter 62.
Yeah, this was another fun game. Hayti, played well. They jumped out to a 7-0 lead. They never trailed, and just led the whole way. But Cooter just kept hanging around, kept making shots. Mathis made some big shots. McIlvain hit some big shots for Cooter. But at the end, it was just too much Hayti. And again, they rebound well. They get down the floor quick in transition, and it's just tough to match their speed. And I tell you what, whenever they play South Pim, that's going to be a fun track meet. Assuming Hayti has gotten healthy, but Hayti apparently got kind of banged up in this game. A couple of starters were out for the next game against Osceola, but this was they've got a lot of depth, but they do get a little loose with the basketball sometimes, and it's kind of Hayti's Achilles heel, I think. But they look pretty good against Cooter. And Cooter, on the flip side, they're a really good Class 1 team. I think they've kind of been flying under the radar because they haven't played a lot of the teams that we talk about a lot, but they're a good team.
Absolutely. Friday games, we've got Chaffee 64, Bell City 52.
Well, Chaffee wins, 2 of the 3. So they got the rubber game here. It was a good win for Chaffee. They're getting better. And Logan Fowler, boy, he's a good player. 28. He's got good size. He can score. He's kind of a fun player to watch. Only a junior, so he'll be back. And a lot of these guys for Chaffee are just juniors. So Reichman and McMullen, those guys, they're going to be around for another year, and they're just getting better and better as this season goes along. So you kind of look for them next year as well. Juan Hernandez had 28, Blake Gerald 16, and Chaffee's a good rebounding team that kind of sparks their transition game, and they were able to get up and down, and Bell City just kind of couldn't keep up in this one.
Yeah, you kind of notice that, once you lose a piece out of your team, especially if you're Class 1, that's a big factor.
Yeah, losing him is a definite problem, especially against a team that's got some size like Chaffee. Chaffee definitely took advantage of that, and I think Bell City has to play a little bit different. Definitely a loss for Richardson being out, but Chaffee's a good team, and I thought Bell City played well even without him. It's just that Chaffee was just a little bit better.
Jackson 72, Kennett 27.
And Jackson just continues to roll, and they are very good defensively. Some of the highlights of this game just looked like they were just running layup drills. I'm like, it was just Ty Force has 19. They're another team that has so many different guys that can put put the ball in the basket. You just have so many different options. You just got to kind of pick your poison with them, and Kennett just they're just struggling to find some offense.
Dexter 59, Cape Central 39.
Yeah, I was at this game. My granddaughter was cheerleading, so I had to go to watch this game, and it was as ugly as the score. Dexter just looked like they were rusty.
Yeah.
They didn't play poorly at all. I mean, they just were a little rusty, missed some shots, but I thought overall played, did what they needed to do and took care of business, and the game never seemed to be in doubt. And Turnbow had a couple of really nice little spin moves in the lane, looked pretty good. Nichols hit some shots early, and they just kind of took it to Cape Central and did not leave it in any doubt. And Cape Central, we've said it time and time again, they just can't find any offense with Edwards out.
Yeah, I think for Dexter, I mean, going forward, obviously you're kind of wanting to avenge yourself from BCT. And I feel like a lot of people are going to be kind of more speculative, just like, okay, you're going to earn your place at Sutter County, things like that. I feel like they're on the road to do that, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, look, all their losses are to good teams. I mean, they've not lost any games that are to bad teams, and a lot of those losses they should have won. So there's that narrative there, but they just put Cape away. They really pushed them out on the perimeter. Their defense looked really, really good. Pushed them out on the perimeter. Cape couldn't find anything really going inside, and I think that's when Dexter's having success, is whenever they defend like that, and they look like I said, they missed some shots that they probably should have made, but they were rusty. Hadn't played in 10, 11 days, but overall they look pretty good.
Absolutely. Up next, I've got Sykeston 84, Charleston 65.
I tell you what, this game was closer than the score.
Yep.
I thought Charleston had a great game plan. They came out, zoned them up early, and forced Sykeston to hit some outside shots, and they weren't able to do that consistently. This game was close, right? A big shot there by Kobe Thomas at the half. That
they really switched momentum up.
Yeah, that really kind of changed momentum. Sykeston came out in the second half and started hitting some shots. Then Charleston had to switch up to a man-to-man, and you can't. I mean, they just could not guard Sykeston man-to-man.
Yeah, I mean, score-wise, this was pretty. Up until maybe like the end of the fourth, or maybe about halfway to the fourth, it was about single digits, maybe 10 to 12 point difference. And then you're right, Sykeston just started to run away with it. I'll tell you this, I cut highlights of this game. You want to talk about how many threes were made in this game? It was nuts.
23, I think, wasn't it? I think 12 for Sykeston, 11 for Charleston.
That sounds about right.
I think that's what it was. I mean, look, both teams, kind of. It's the new brand of basketball. A lot of these teams that we've seen, they depend a lot on the 3-pointer, and if the 3-pointer's falling, then they're going to have success. If the 3-pointer's not, they're not. And these two teams were hitting 3-pointers at different times in the game, but hit some big threes. And this is that Sykeston has a lot of good outside shooters, and Charleston kind of depends more on it now than they ever have, I think. And it's just kind of the way of the game. But I think there was, I think a lot of threes in this game for sure.
Absolutely. Up next, we've got Advance 48, Bernie 45.
Yeah, Advance is gritty, and I think I said earlier on the podcast this year that Advance was going to get somebody. I really liked the way they played, and they just kind of get after you, and they got after Bernie and jumped out to an early lead, and kind of back and forth there after, for a while. But, Bernie missed their first 12 threes before they finally hit one late in the third quarter, finished 2 of 23 for the game from 3. That's not ideal. And 9 of 18 from the free throw line when you lose a 3-point game. And they still had a chance to win it at the end, or at least tie it at the end, and just couldn't get it. But Aycock, they couldn't get the ball down to him, and when they did, he was double and triple teamed. And Advance just played well and did, had a good game plan and did what they needed to do to win this game.
You talk about the new brand of basketball, and, it comes with its own risks and rewards. Obviously, consecutive 3-pointers will swing momentum. They will change the scoreboard immediately. But also, if you can't make those threes, I mean, that really puts a dampener on everything.
Yeah, I tell you what, Caleb Henson, he had 11 points all in the first half, but he had a little run there in the second quarter where he had a couple of big threes to put Advance up, and that was a huge momentum switch, and that put them up 10 in the second half, or the second quarter, and that was just big, him hitting those shots. And so like you said, those threes can really change momentum, and boy, it did in this game. And Advance went on a 16-4 run in the first half, and Bernie, they cut it to 2 with 40 seconds, missed the layup. Advance gets it. They hit 1 or 2 free throws and come back the other way, and missed 3 there for Bernie, another one, and they just weren't able to get this thing out. You felt if they could get it to overtime, they could win it, but they just couldn't do it.
All right, moving on, we've got Malden 55 and South Pemiscot 52.
This was a fun game. Malden did what they needed to do to win this game. They were not able, they didn't allow South Pemiscot to get out in transition, and that was kind of the big thing. When Malden turned it over, I think they had like 23 turnovers, but even when they turned it over, it wasn't in a position where South Pem was getting down the floor and getting an easy layup. And Ty Campbell had a couple of breakaways and things, but for the most part, Malden dominated this game. They dominated the glass too. That was a big thing. 34-24 on the glass. But Ty Campbell, he played well for South Bend, 24 points, 11 rebounds. I'm like, he's 5'10", but he plays like he's 6'2", 6'3", and he's a fun guy to watch. So quick down the floor and very strong. But South Penn missed a long 3 with a chance to tie. Probably forced that shot a little bit, but probably had more time than what they thought they did. But all in all, this was a fun game. These two teams might meet again in that Boot Hill Conference tournament. But South Pemiscot, you knew they weren't going to go the season undefeated, and somebody finally got them. But Malden plays well at home too. Whenever you look at a team that plays well at home, they played Dexter to the wire at home. Here they beat South Pem. Malden's a good home team, and this was a really fun game. Tristan Moncrief, 19 points, 12 rebounds, had a huge game for them.
Yeah, this definitely feels like, Malden's one of those teams where it's like you got the pieces, can you put it together? And this feels like a game where they put it together.
Yeah, it was. And again, they did what they needed to do to win. It was kind of back and forth at times, but the fact that they really limited, they have some speed on their team and they have some height. They were just really able to limit South Pemiscot on that fast break. I thought that was kind of the difference in the game.
Up next, I've got Scott City 69, Delta 39.
Yeah, Delta, I thought could play them a little bit closer, but Scott City just came out and went and dominated this game. Max Snyder was back. That helps him a lot because he can hit the 3, and it kind of stretches the defense a little bit. But man, Scott City's a good team, and they're gonna give Woodland all they want in that district up there, and that's a good team, and Delta's not a bad team. It's just they ran into just a better team on Friday night.
And then I've got Van Buren 87 and East Carter 62.
Yeah, this is kind of the one game we talked about the other day, kind of a Christmas tournament, the two teams in the Bloomfield Christmas tournament. And, Van Buren just came out and took care of business, 87 points. They got it up and running, and they hit some outside shots. They were able to get it. I mean, they did the whole thing, and just took it to East Carter. I'm kind of surprised by the margin of that score, but Van Buren's a team that's going to be around at the end of the year whenever we're talking about teams that have a chance to win their district.
Absolutely. All right, David. Do you want to get to your dozen?
I really don't. Actually, there's not a lot of movement this week because most of the teams in that top 12 stayed. They had a pretty good week. There was a couple of teams that lost, so we'll have a little bit of change here. But my number 12 team, and we talked about it before we went on the air, I really struggled to find a 12th team because there's all the teams that were kind of right there. They won a game this week, and they also lost a game this week. But I'm just going on the eye test of who I thought looked the best of the teams that were kind of on my fringe. And so I'm going to go with number 12. I'm going to go with Charleston. Okay. I think that score against Sykeston was better than what it really was. I thought Charleston played them better than that, and quite honestly, I thought Charleston has played Sykeston better than any of the other Class 2 teams that are pretty good. That the Hayti and Puxico. I thought Charleston kind of played them a little bit better than those other two did.
Yeah, I feel like there's the constant narrative of just when a smaller class team loses to Sykeston, it's like, well, they're a Class 5, so obviously they should win. And, just by metrics, I mean, yeah, I guess so. At the same time, Charleston played them so well that I feel like it kind of really quashes that.
Yeah, so even with the loss, I've got them at 12. And Hayti, I've got at 11. They had a 2-1 week. They really kind of took it on the chin to Osceola on Saturday with missing some players and everything. So I'm not going to move them up, because they did lose that game, but I'm also not going to move them down any. So I'm going to keep them at 11. I moved Chaffee up to 10. They had a good week. Got a couple of wins. South Pemiscot, I've got them falling to 9. Just losing to Malden, and Scott City looked good. Notre Dame looked good this week, so I've got Scott City at 8, Notre Dame at 7. Dexter, like I said, they did what they needed to do against Cape Central, so they're at 6. Van Buren looked good, so they're at 5. Woodland 4. Puxico 3, Jackson 2, Sykeston 1. Not really any movement there. They all continue to win and look good doing it.
It's not a lot of change, but not a lot of teams moving in either.
Right. Yeah, and it was tough on that 12th one to decide who that is, and that could be a fluid spot there, because there's a lot of teams that are right there on the fringe. You've got your Deltas, your Bernies, your Cooters. We talked about them. They've kind of been flying under the radar. I liked what I saw out of them. They're a good team. They can they just don't play a really tough schedule. I need to see them play a little bit more. Some teams around here, and Risco, Twin Rivers, some teams like that are kind of on that fringe looking in, but just aren't quite there yet.
Yeah, you think just another week of better performance, that'll probably start shifting the list around.
Yeah, and I figure we have some games this week that are going to probably challenge this list a little bit. We'll talk about some of those games. So this list could change a lot by next week for sure.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about those upcoming games. On Monday, we've got Crothersville at Hayti. Yeah,
if Haytie's healthy, this game is going to be just a fun game to watch. Crothersville and Hayti, they're a huge rivalry game. These two teams don't like each other on the football field, basketball court, on the t-ball field, whatever it may be. They do not like each other, and so that's always a fun game when those two get together.
Absolutely, and then continuing on with Crothersville, Tuesday night, we've got Bernie at Crothersville.
Yeah, Bernie needs to respond here. And Crothersville is a tough place to go play. Like we talked about a little bit earlier, Crothersville plays pretty well at home. And they're a team that's very athletic. They're going to get after you defensively. They're going to, force your shooters to shoot it quick, and you've got to be ready for that. I think Bernie's got to find a way to get Aycock the ball down in the post, because I don't think that Crowsville has anybody that really can match him down inside. So, I think that's got to be Bernie's game plan, and just try to work it from there.
Yeah, I think they definitely need to respond. And I think this is a good opportunity because, one, you're getting out of Stoddard County. You're not playing a Stoddard County team, so you kind of get to, I'm not going to say mix it up, but you get to see different competition.
Yeah, and this is a tough week for Bernie because, they've got Crothersville on Tuesday. We'll talk about their game on Friday, but it's a tough week for Bernie, and, they need to get a couple of, they need to at least get one of these two wins here this week for sure.
Absolutely. Up next, we've got Charleston and New Mexico County Central. This is the game we'll be carrying on A-Corp Sports this week.
Yeah, this game traditionally is one of the better games in Southeast Missouri for the year. Now, New Madrid's a little bit down, but you kind of at some point you expect those sophomores to kind of take it to that next level. New Madrid lost another game on Saturday over at to McCracken County over in Kentucky, and they've just they're just struggling. They're needing to find a win. And if you're Charleston, even though you lost to Sykes, I think there's a lot of positive takeaways that you can take from that game. You just want to try to build off that, and don't want to go into New Madrid and have a letdown here. So I think this could be a good game, but I think New Madrid's got to raise their level of play just a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. Up next, man, this seems like a really fun game on paper. Scott City at Chaffee.
Yeah, it does. For another rivalry game. These two teams, they're just 5-10 minutes apart, and I know a lot of their kids know each other. Obviously, they played football together, a lot of these kids are very, very familiar with each other. This ought to be a fun game. They're two good basketball teams, and this will go a long way for that Scott Miss seeding for their tournament, for winning their regular season title. And for my dozen here, I mean, it'll have a big impact on that for sure. So, this ought to be a really fun game, and I'm anxious to see how this one turns out.
Absolutely, yeah. Keep eyes on that one if you can find it. Up next, we've got Bell City at Puxico.
Yeah, Bell City. I would like this game a lot better if Richardson was playing for Bell City. I think that I think the inside game for Bell City is kind of where I think you can take advantage of a Puxico. But Puxico's guards, man, they're so quick and make so many things happen. It's just it's a tough ask for Bell City here. But at the same time, Bell City's not a bad basketball team, and I'm anxious to see who they put Asher on, because Asher's probably one of the best defenders in the area. He does a really nice job defensively, and he's gonna whoever he's guarding is gonna struggle a little bit, I think, because he does a really nice job. So this ought to be a fun game. I still think Puxico pulls it out, but I think they have too much. But Bell City can give them a game, I think.
Yeah, we'll just see if Puxico runs this gauntlet. Yeah. This Stoddard County gauntlet right now.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, it's tough, and it's games that they're going to need as they get into districts. I mean, they're going to need some of these tough games, and you know, these Stoddard County teams have it out for Puxico because, you know, Puxico's the defending conference champ. So you know they've got a bullseye on them. So you know, it'll be fun to see how that plays out this season.
Up next, I've got Malden at Zenith Hornersville.
Yeah, you know, Malden, I think, again, they've got to continue to play. You know, they should have beat Crothersville. You know, they had that game in hand and let it slip away. But then, you know, you responded well with the South Pim game, just continued to get better because they're another team as districts roll around that they could, if they just continue to improve. They've got some pieces there that are a really nice team. And, you know, they're just kind of a little bit of a roller coaster, some up and down. And like a lot, we talk about Charleston. Malden's kind of the same way. They can look really good and then they can kind of fall apart. And so I think they just got to continue to improve. And I think this is a chance. Zenith Hornersville is not a bad team. So I think that's a team that you got to go in. It's going to be a tough game, but you got to pull out the win there.
Absolutely. You know, build that momentum. I think that's the biggest thing to do right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on, we got Farmington at Sykeston. You can catch this one on the Bulldog Nation Network.
You know, this is going to be a big game for district seeding. You know, Sykeston lost to Farmington the regular season last year, then, you know, kind of took it to them in that district championship game. Farmington lost some pieces from that team. Obviously, Sykeston lost a lot from their team, but, you know, both of them have good teams back. And I think Sykeston wins this game. I think, but Farmington always tends to play Sykeston well. So we'll see how they match up. But, you know, I think this is big. I think Sykeston needs to get this win so they can, you know, pretty much guarantee that top seed in the district. And I definitely think you want that top seed.
Absolutely. And then moving on, we got Hayti out South Pemiscot.
Yep, Hayti just goes from Crothersville to South Pemiscot, and man, they just that Boot Hill Conference. We talk about the Stoddard County Conference. That Boot Hill Conference is just as tough. Yep, some really, really good teams down there, and you know, say if you're South Pim, you want to rebound off your loss to Malden, and if you're Hayti, I mean, this is your chance to. You know, everybody's been talking about South Pim all year. Hayti's kind of flown under the radar. This is your chance to change that narrative and kind of flip it. So it'll be anxious to see again. Hayti, you know, a tough game the night before. They've got they're kind of banged up a little bit, but we'll see how they respond here in this game. It ought to be a fun one for sure. Absolutely.
On Thursday, I've got Crothersville at Zenith Hornersville.
Another game that you know. Zenith is a tough team. They tend to always give teams good games. Wouldn't shock me to see them pull out a win in one of these games. But you know, Crothersville's got their work cut out for them. But at the same time, Crothersville is a team that's they're not a bad team. They played a tough schedule up to date. I think they're 6-6 if I'm not mistaken. But they're a team that you know they beat a good St. Vincent team on Saturday, and I think just continue to build off that. And like I said, they're a young team, so they're getting better each and every game. And you know, Quan McVeigh is a really nice player for them, and I really like watching him play.
All right, and then on Friday we've got Bell City at Delta.
Yeah, Class 1. This may be for the top seed in that district there. So this is a big game, and again, some of these teams have some really, really tough games this week. And if you're Delta, you've kind of in that Christmas tournament, you kind of made it known that you're the team to beat in that Class 1. Kind of let down against Scott City, but you want to erase that. And I think this is a chance to get a big win for Bell City. And kind of a statement for them. And if you're Delta, you definitely want to get this game because you want to get that. That's another district that you definitely want to get that top seed in.
Absolutely. I've kind of been high on Delta this entire season so far. On paper, this seems like a really good game just for them to prove, like you said, district implications, they're all there. So I think this one's really exciting.
Yeah, both teams, a lot of seniors. So this is a game that these teams, these players have met before multiple times on the basketball floor, so they know each other pretty well. So it ought to be a fun one.
And then on Friday, this will also be on A-Corp Sports, 5 Mile Battle. It's going to be Bernie at Dexter.
I love this game. I was able to do this game last year, and it always seems to go down to the wire. It always is just a fun atmosphere. The BEC, they'll have a lot of people in there for this game, and it'll be a lot of fun. And these two teams, it doesn't matter what their records are. It doesn't matter what's happened the week before or the day before or anything. Whenever these two teams meet, it's always going to go. It always seems to go down to the wire, and it is a fun game. And this game, I mean, obviously these two teams have been pretty talked about evenly matched all year long, and I think this is no different. A big game for seeding. I mean, I think it kind of changed the narrative with Bernie losing to Advance, but Bernie beats Dexter, that could kind of erase that Advance loss. So this is a very interesting game for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, any rivalry game is great. I mean, this one's kind of more nearer to me. I'm a Dexter kid, so it's always a big one.
Yeah, it is, and the people who aren't from around the Bernie Dexter area, I don't think they understand the implications. I mean, this is a huge game. A lot of people will be at this game that aren't at other games during the year. This is a game that kind of people circle, and this is a big game for both these schools.
Absolutely. Up next, I've got Advance at Richland.
Yeah, another Stoddard County matchup. Can Advance continue? Again, Advance is trying to climb up the seeding scale too. All of a sudden, they're in a conversation to get a better seed, and but you got to take care of Richland. And Richland, you're just trying to find wins at this point. I mean, you beat Gideon this last week, but you're a team that. They're not a bad team, but you're in a really, really tough conference. Mm-hmm. And this is a team that probably wants to stay out of that 8 seed. And I think you're going to need to knock off an Advance or somebody to do that. And Gary Tilley is a really nice player, but I think this ought to be a hard fought game for sure.
Absolutely, I feel like Advance is very scrappy right now.
They are, and I got to do some of their games at the Orion tournament earlier this year, and they're fun to watch. They're so gritty, and they've kind of gotten out of the where they've kind of figured out how to guard and play hard and not foul all the time. So I think that's been a big benefit for them as well, because they're not a real deep team, but yeah, they're fun to watch. They really get after you.
And then we've got East Prairie at Scott City.
Again, this is a game that's big for that Scott Miss Conference seeding. East Prairie is a team that's big for that Class 3 District 2. This is East Prairie is a team they're going to get somebody. I mean, they play well. I mean, they kind of fly under the radar. And if you got to come to play, you can't show up and not have your best game and beat an East Prairie. And East Prairie just kind of floating along under the radar, but continue to win games. And I think that's kind of a surprise. A lot of people weren't expecting East Prairie to have this kind of year after they lost what they did last year. But they're playing pretty well. And of course, Scott City is a really nice team. So this ought to be a fun game.
Yeah, I think East Prairie is going to get somebody too. But do you really think it's going to be Scott City right now?
No. I think Scott City takes care of it, but again, you got to bring your A game. You can't go in this game thinking that you're going to just coast. I think, but East Prairie I think could play them tough, and if you get a close game at the end of the game, who knows? But I think Scott City just has too many weapons.
Absolutely. And then on the Bulldog Nation Network, we've got St. Mary's Southside at Sykeston.
This ought to be a good one. St. Mary's is pretty impressive. Saw them at the Riverbend earlier this year, and pretty impressive. And bring a nice team down to Sykeston. We'll see how Sykeston again. They play very well in the field house, so we'll see how that goes. But they kind of struggled against some teams like this up at the St. Dom tournament, and so it's a chance to see if they've kind of improved a little bit. But this ought to be kind of one of those knockdown, drag out games where. And up and down, both these teams like to get up and down. And so, I expect a track meet of a game. And if you're Sykeston, you got to come out and hit some shots early because you can't fall behind, I don't think.
This one seems like it's going to be really fun. Sykeston, when they have to play, these St. Louis teams that kind of bring that competition, I don't think anybody's going to say it out loud, but I think a lot of people are secretly in the area wanting Sykeston to lose.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I live in Sykeston, so I don't have that.
You don't get that.
I don't get that because most everybody I talk to wants Sykeston to win. But I mean, I think these are good challenge games for them. I like these games coming down because they kind of you play the Caruthersvilles and the Hayties and the Puxicos, but they're not super competitive. The Charleston game was, but for the most part, you take care of those other schools. So I want to see Sykeston get challenged challenged, and I think this is a good game for that. It's a game that I'm sure that Fieldhouse should be a lot of people there because it's a big game. So we'll see. And these St. Mary's again, we saw them. They're very talented.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they're a team that likes to get up and run and has some good players. So it'd be fun. A really interesting game.
Oh yeah, and my previous statement. Hate us because they ain't us. That's how I wear it as a badge of honor that people want you to lose.
Absolutely.
David, any games that I'm missing?
No, I don't think so. I think that's everything that I had. We do have Southland playing Risco. That was those two teams, no love lost last year.
Yep.
They're playing on Friday night, so I'm sure that Risco remembers Southland, and Southland remembers Risco. So that ought to be an interesting game as well.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts for this episode?
No, I don't think so. Just we're getting closer to some of these conference tournaments. I think some seeding will come up here pretty soon, and I'm interested in some of these. The Boot Hill Conference, the Scott Miss Conference is better than I think it's been in the past as well, as far as teams that could win it, because you've got probably 4 teams in that Scott Miss Conference that could win that. So I think you've got we got 3 really good, nice conferences coming up with the Stoddard, Boot Hill, and Scott Miss that could have some really interesting tournaments in the next few weeks. So it's kind of everybody's kind of going toward the seeding for that. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, very competitive, very exciting to watch. Check your local streamers, see what you got going on. But that's going to do it for me. I assume that's going to do it for you.
That does it for me.
All right, this has been the SEMO Sports Zone. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.